Hey everybody, it's GauntletX, and welcome to the Pioneer Masters Arena Open Day 1 event. As always, these are going to be a best of one sealed event where we are competing to get 7 wins before 3 losses. So a really high stakes event here where we are very much at the mercy of our pulls. So a high stakes, high variance event, high risk, high reward event because those day 2 rewards are super spicy. If we make it into day 2, by getting a 7-win run during this event, we will be playing some best of 3 drafts with cash prizes on the line up to $2,000. So, really cool competitive event here, but quite the grind to try to make it through day 1. So, let's just get that started right off the bat. Hop into this event, bust open these Pioneer Masters packs, and see what we get to play with today. All right, so looking at the rares right off the bat, it looks like we can certainly do some kind of Naya Dragons deck here. We have Stormbreath Dragon, Dragonlord Atarka, and Dragonlord Dramoka. All three of these being incredible mythic rare dragons, and they all align in a three-color pair, red, green, and white here, doing something like playing red as a core color because we have a double red rare that also wants double red to monstrosity. It would make a lot of sense. Say that we get to play red, green, splash the white, or red, white, splash the green. That would be an excellent spot to be. That also helps us play our Change to the Rocks, which looks like a monocolored removal spell, but you need mountains on board to use it. So it's really a Boros removal spell. So if we're playing red and white together, which we probably are, Chain to the Rocks is going to be really efficient removal, and that will be excellent. Very happy with the Naya rares here, but there's powerful stuff in other colors as well. Verica, God of Affliction, is really annoying over the long course of a game. You get to exile a creature from any graveyard to have its owner create a 1/1 death touching snake. So I guess the fact that you can exile creatures from your opponent's graveyard isn't that good in 1v1 in this, unless they're specifically trying to reanimate it. But being able to exile extra creatures from your grave and just keep spitting out an army of 1/1 death touchers to keep all their ground attacks off you is really annoying. So the card can play great in those grindy green-black self-mill decks. The Chasm Skulker here is excellent. The longer it stays on board, the bigger creature it is, but the bigger deal it is, and if they blow it up, then you get a bunch of squids anyway. Our last two rares are pretty weak. Counterflux is just a really hard to cast counterspell, and then Metamai the Ageless is not the greatest, as by itself, it's basically literally just a 6 mana 4/4 flyer. If it does deal combat damage to your opponent, you do get to like draw a card and untap all your mana, but it can't attack during your extra turns, so it is still basically just going to hit for the 4 damage, unless you have a wide board of creatures to get an extra combat step out of that. So card is fine, but it is a lot of mana, and no like enter the battlefield effect, no protection of any kind means it will often just die before it does too much. So pretty excellent rares all around here, though, so certainly looking towards Naya if we have the fixing to get there. So we'll check out our multicolored and colorless cards here. The colorless, of course, to see if we have any colorless mana fixing, and we do have a Gateway Plaza as well as a Darksteel Ingot. And when it comes to our gates, we have a Gruul Guildgate, a Boros Guildgate, and a Selesnya Guildgate, all in the Naya color trio. We've also got Selesnya Charm, along with our Dragonlord Jamoka towards Selesnya. Excellent flexible instant here. Play a 2/2 Knight to get some damage in or trade off, or exile a creature later with that power 5 or greater part. With our Dragonlord Atarka here in Gruul, we also have a Zendikar Incarnate and a Gore Clan Rampager, just for beefy creatures at the 4 mana slot. Those are pretty nice. And then no Boros spells, but that's fine. It looks like the Selesnya and the Gruul look fantastic. We've got a lot of Rakdos cards. Blood Tithe Harvester, Dreadbore, and Swift Warkite all being really, really nice. But I doubt we have the fixing to support trying to do 4 or 5 color, and I'm definitely leaning a little farther towards Naya than putting any black in the deck with these Dragon Lords in those colors. Izzet has a couple other spells, but they're just okay. Orzhov, Gift of Orzhov is pretty spooky, and we could play that technically without the black mana, but double white and one's a little bit hard to cast. But Flying and Lifelink is going to be really hard to beat. You're making a really hard to block threat that also gains you a million life every turn. So I do like that card a lot. I just think it's unlikely to get ran here. All right, really nice stuff from the multicolored and colorless, but what have we got out of each color individually? So white looks like it has basically exactly what we want it to have, which is some cheap removal to keep us alive towards the point of the game when we're casting giant mythic rare dragons. We have Change to the Rocks, Compulsory Rest, and two Swift Reckonings, plus a Heliod's Pilgrim that can tutor for a Change to the Rocks or Compulsory Rest. Grab it from our deck, put it in our hand, and get it at the ready. And that's not all we have. We also have a couple Lotus Eye Mystics, which generally not the greatest in sealed, but we have a little bit of synergy here. If we have any more enchantment creatures outside of just the Ghostblade Eidolon, we've already got potentially Chained to the Rocks and Compulsory Rest here to pick up from the grave with the Mystics. Syndicate Messenger is fine for the cost. Triplicate Spirits is solid for the cost. Not a single unplayable white card here, and some good synergies between the Pilgrim and the Auras, as well as the Mystics with these enchantments. So I am certainly liking the white. Blue does not look bad either. Um, Not the most huge fan of Mizium skin, but everything else is super, super solid. It's got a great aggressive curve with some cheap evasive threats like Cloudfin Raptor to fly over our opponent's board. If we're playing against a blue deck, Chasm Skulker is really gross because the squid tokens are a huge problem if you have any islands on board. Got excellent counter spells, great draw spell. Blue looks real solid too. As for the black, we have no removal, which is really awkward. Nantuko Husk is pretty bad without excellent synergies. Same with the Slumgar Butcher. We've got the one skeleton that works fine with them, but just isn't that exciting. Baleful Eidolon's pretty overcosted for just a 1/1 Death Toucher. Basically, all of our non-creature spells are just not playable. Supernatural Stamina, I guess, with good enter effects can be fine. You're only going to open up like 6 gates total in sealed, so the gatekeepers all tend to be pretty bad. Our black, while it does have a lot of spells, is pretty bad. They're all pretty mediocre spells. So our red now, we've got the Wild Slash and Draconic Roar for cheap removal. Not to mention that we have 3 dragons at least to go with the Draconic Roar, so that might actually also damage our opponent's face, which is very cute. We've got some pretty excellent aggro creatures. Slide Runner, Double Rimrock Knight, a Crowan Crusader. Some good heroic nonsense with coordinated assault there for that Crusader. Although I don't think we're going to end up playing that aggressively, we can still use these creatures to buy us some time. Maybe just put some pressure on our opponent to get them to use their removal spells early. Stuff like that can still play fine. I am not a fan of the 2 toughness 4 mana creature. Stone Shock Giant, mainly a 5 mana 5/4. The extra ability is so much mana, it's rarely relevant. Same with Perforos's Emissary. And Fanatic Amogus only does damage to face. We can't target any creatures with it, so it's a really aggressive card that doesn't help us on the defensive really at all, being another 2 toughness, 4 mana creature. But it is borderline playable. I think if we're going to be playing 3 colors, though, playing red, green, and white, probably end up cutting it and just running like all these. Crusader could get cut as well, but we do have double Rimrock Knight to target it with the Boulder Rush, as well as the Ghostblade Eidolon out of white, potentially. But red certainly looks pretty solid here. It doesn't have quite as high of a quantity of cards as I would like, because I'd like to be deeper into red than any other color, so that it's easy to hit double red for our incredibly powerful Stormbreath Dragon. But it still looks very solid, very playable, and like we're going to get there. But green, okay, I don't know how good the spells are yet, but just seeing the quantity means green is probably the main color. And one thing that's really nice about our green is it's going to help get that double red card, even if red is not our main color. We have 3 Voyaging Satyr, so if we have a single mountain on board, we can get double red with a Voyaging Satyr. We also have a District Guide that can grab any combination of our 3 colors because we have all of the relevant gates. We have 1 of each, which is really, really nice. And we can always get a basic land as well if we just need to play an untapped mana off of that. So green looks insanely good. There's double Gnarlback Rhino, which is an incredible card. If you have anything that heroics, like a Boon Satyr we can bestow onto those rhinos, and those boulder dashing dwarves from Eldraine, the 2 mana 3/1. We can target those with the Boulder Rush and then cast the Dwarf Half later, draw a card off of the creature, and play the 3/1 body, which is really good. Leaf Crown Dryad's another card that can target the Gnarlback Rhino. Avatar of the Resolute's just a straight up 2 mana 3/2, but double green. on a 2-drop is certainly much more difficult than on a later creature. So I could see cutting that and just playing, the removal spells and the mana ramp kind of creatures early. Yeah, I mean, our green is insane. Conclave Naturalist is definitely main deckable in this sealed format. There's a lot of enchantments because there's so many cards from Theros block in this format. There's also some relevant artifacts. But probably like Nemesis and Nessian Asp. We don't really need these random green top end creatures because we're gonna have the like mythic rare dragon top end creatures. So yeah, I mean green looks insanely good. Green is definitely our best color. I mean, not a single card that I've cut here is like actively bad. Maybe Aspect of Hydra, but we've got enough green devotion that it'll be okay still. Um, I mean, I guess with like the powerful double green card here, the powerful heroic card from Hero of Lena Tower, there is an argument to go for just straight green red here, because that'll give us a lot of heroic synergy and a more consistent mana base to easily hit our double green cards like Avatar, Boon Satyr, and Gnarlback Rhinos, as well as our double red card like not the Stone Shock Giant, the Storm Breath Dragon. And I think there's enough good cards here that that would be a possibility. Um, but the one guaranteed thing with the sealed pool is that it is green at the core of the deck. I'm going to start with a look at the Naya build. That still seems instinctually correct with like Triple Satyr, District Guide, all of the relevant gates. I think we should probably just be splashing around to play all of the strongest cards in this sealed pool. So I'm going to work towards that. Boros Guildgate as well. Gateway Plaza, sure. Ingot. I don't think Ingot's going to be necessary with the 4 gates and Satyr District Guide here. It's going to be a little filler. So Dragon Lord Jamoka and Selesnya Charm, because we're not going to have a million removal spells. There's no removal in our green. This also can be used as a combat trick, which can be used as card draw with the Gnarlback Rhino. That could be relevant. That's exciting. The Gore Clan Rampager. I guess Blood Rush doesn't trigger Heroic because it's not a spell, it's an ability. You're discarding it for the ability, but still going to be a good card in general. Definitely Dragon Lord Atarka at the very top of the curve. 7 mana is quite a bit, but we have 3 mana ramp creatures as well as one that draws an extra land out of our deck. In a pinch, we can pull some Marasa, a land back from our graveyard. If we've been milled at all, I guess that's not going to be the most relevant scenario, but it might come up. Yeah, these green cards are all the ones that are better for a 2-color deck. It's more streamlined and aggressive, especially the Avatar and the hero. Definitely Wild Slash, definitely Draconic Roar, definitely Storm Breath Dragon. And I am a pretty big fan of how the Rimrock Knights synergize with the Gnarlback Rhino. So I think we play those. Does white just become a splash here? We just play like Dragon Lord Jamoka and change to the rocks. Really efficient removal, and then just another great bomb. I guess the Selesnya Charm as well for more removal. That seems pretty reasonable to me. White, the only thing white was really giving us was the really good removal. Outside of that, there's like decent little enchantment synergy pieces, but nothing insane there. So going for a more aggressive Gruul deck at the core with just that splashed in white off of all of our fixing for a bit more removal, and another Dragon Lord seems pretty reasonable. You can play like a Slide Runner for a good aggressive creature. Could play a Crowan Crusader. I'm not sure I'm good enough at Heroic to be interested in that, though. We'll see. I've got the double Rimrock Knight. I do not think I'm playing any straight-up combat tricks, so I'll have the double Rimrock Knight, a Leaf Crown Dryad, a Boon Satyr. That's going to be it. Yeah, probably not enough for a Crowan Crusader. Experiment one looks legit in here. This deck actually looks really nice. So we've just got like a powerful, aggressive Gruul deck at the core that could outrace other opponents while still having a bunch of top-end bomb power if the game goes long. I mean, the 5, 6, and then 7 mana dragon all in a row. I like this a lot. We could go pure Gruul, but again, with this level of fixing, I really think this supports the white splash quite easily. We could go even more multicolored, but I think there's a lot of weight towards being deeper into red to make it really easy to play Stormbreath Dragon, as well as to have the really good Gnarlback Rhino, Rimrock Knight stuff going on, and playing a little bit of a more aggressive game plan early. I really think there's a lot of merit to this build, to the point where I'm not that worried about looking at the other decks. They might be, again, a little stronger if we spend a lot of time here and really focus on some other enchantment synergies. They could end up being a tiny bit stronger, but I think they're probably a little weaker without looking at them. And it's going to take a lot of time to find a different build that's going to play better than this one, because this is just already fantastic. So I'm just going to roll with this one so we can get into the gameplay and get rolling on this Arena Open. I am going to consider this Hero of Lena Tower, though, with how aggressive our deck is looking here. It does skip over 3 drops on the mana curve, but that's kind of fine with 3 Voyaging Satyr that also skip over 3 mana and get us to playing those 4 drops early. Our creature count is 19, so we definitely cut a creature here and keep all this removal and the pulse. So probably, I guess the Rimrocks are kind of a 3-drop because we can Boulder Rush and then cast them. Maybe a Zendikar Incarnate, or weakest 4-drop. These are just Zendikar Incarnates with Trample, basically. A 4-mana 4/4, but they have Trample. The Incarnate gets bigger the longer the game goes on. It starts as a 4/4, then it can be a 5/4, then a 6/4, then 7/4, and whatever. But it always has only 4 toughness, so it's always going to trade into just as little of creatures as these two will. And this one can just get chump blocked by tokens and stuff that these two cannot. So I think I would rather just have Trample than the extra 1 to 3 power this ends up having throughout the game. So these 3 4-drops are better, and then we keep all that top end there. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Play the deck like this. Looks real sweet. We can double check our mana base here for sure, and make sure that that is perfect before we really get into it, but I'm really happy with this build. We've got 16 green, 8 red, 3 white. So 6, 7, 8, 9 green sources. I would not be surprised if I actually want 10 in this deck. Green seems incredibly important. Red, we have 5, 6, 7, 8. So 10, 8, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think I mind running a single plains in here. So I'm going to go 10 green sources, 4 white sources. My reasoning there is that every single one of our white spells does not need to be cast in the early game. Right, Chain to the Rocks is going to remain relevant whenever we have the mana to cast it. Selesnya Charm is going to remain relevant whenever we have the mana to cast it, and Dragonlord Dromoka is only relevant when we have at least 6 lands on board anyway. Whereas for the green, we really want to have green available turn 1 or turn 2 at the absolute latest. And it is by far the most important color, so I like going all the way up to 10 green sources. And even red, again, much more important than the white. We actually have 2-mana red creatures, 3-mana red plays, stuff like that. And the red removal is smaller than the white removal. The white removal kills gigantic creatures, like Chain to the Rocks kills anything. Selesnya Charm kills creatures of power 5 or greater. The red removal kills the small stuff. So we need that mana for the red removal a lot sooner, because we're going to be killing the small stuff with the red removal. So like the mana base like this, like the deck a lot. I am very excited to see how this plays out as we hop into the gameplay. All right, here we are for game 1. I've got a concerningly small amount of mana, but I have all 3 of my colors and some really good early plays. We have 3 different cards we can play off of these 2 lands alone. And if I draw a single land, if they don't kill the Satyr, then we also have access to the Rhino. And we are on the draw here, I think. Yeah, we're on the draw here, so that gives us more opportunities to hit that mana by the time we need it. Our opponent starts with Selesnya Guildgate, the mirror match, but there's Orzhov Guildgate, so green, white, and black from our opponent at least. I am missing out on an Experiment 1 counter this way for now, but the Voyaging Satyr allows us to play 4 mana worth of cards next turn, which kind of immediately makes up for lost Experiment 1 tempo by just getting mana tempo. Jamming out the big stuff fast. Devour Flesh. Alright, pretty tragic. Dragon Lord Atarka. Well, that makes it extra tragic, because that is a super bad draw. After they kill one of our mana sources here. Let's get some aggro going here. Get 5 power onto this board. Force some more removal from our opponent. Try to get it out of the way before we cast better threats like Gnarlback Rhino potentially next turn. Although now I need specifically a green source. Pretty happy to have 10 green sources in the deck with my double green card sitting here. I guess 9 left in our current deck, but you know what I mean. 10 in the deck build. There's the district guide from our opponent. See if they grab a 4th color here, or if they are just some Abzan goodness. Speaking of Abzan, I just remembered Tarkir's coming out this year after Aether Drift. Get to go back. It's gonna be exciting. Okay, this is 1 counter away from just demolishing District Guide, so I'm just gonna offer the Rimrock Knight trade and not lose Experiment 1 before it gets any bigger. Here's Voyaging Satyr, and hopefully they can't kill this one as well. I think I should have mentioned during the deck building, there are some sealed decks, you know, with a lot of good 6 and 7 drops like this one that could justify running like 18 or 19 lands. That's tragic. I don't think this is one of them, because while we do have 1 really powerful 7 mana spell, 1 really powerful 6 mana spell, we also have 3 Voyaging Satyrs and a District Guide. So those are 4 more ways to essentially be a mana source. All right. Another Voyaging Satyr so that I could Stormbreath Dragon next turn, or I can just get the damage going right now with the Gnarlback Rhino. I think I'm just going to do that. Because I'm also just a top-decked land away from Stormbreath Dragon anyway. And now Experiment 1 is ready to regenerate itself. They have some kind of board wipe, but they are pure Abzan over here, so I don't believe there is one in this format. There's their Gnarlback Rhino. Top deck land would be super beautiful here. That would get the Experiment 1 up to large enough stats to trade into Gnarlback Rhino. And then I could send the whole board in. Alright, Compulsory Rest, not the greatest for us. But I'm quite a bit ahead in cards right now. They've got 1 card left in hand, and we have equivalent boards. Voyaging Satyrs are equal. Gnarlback Rhino and Experiment 1 are about to be equal. And here's Stormbreath Dragon. And we're off to the races here. Now, way ahead. And I have very few cards that will level up Experiment 1 bigger than a 4/4, so I'm just cashing in the damage here, getting them to 9, or cashing in the Experiment 1 to trade into the Rhino. Ooh, boy, that is a nightmare. Okay, so now I need to Leaf Crown Dryad up the Experiment 1 and hold it up on blocks, because we are never outracing 6 lifelinking power. All of the lifelink auras are very, very powerful. As I was saying about the one that just gave +1/+1 lifelink, the +2/+2 trample lifelink, that one's even better than, I guess, +1/+1, yeah, flying lifelink. Okay. I do not have the mana to put a Leaf Crown Dryad on somebody and use Rampager, so I can't lethal here. Also, 2 mana away from Monstrosity on this. They don't have a flying blocker right now, but they could have some kind of trick. I'd probably just jam Stormbreath Dragon, and then if they block and try to use some kind of trick, I've got the Rampager to beat that. If they don't, I just play another Voyaging Satyr to get closer to Monstrosity, plus closer to the ability to like Leaf Crown Dryad and Rampager in the same turn. Yeah, this feels right to me. Against the suspiciously open mana. Safest line we can jam here. Again, they do always have that option to send in that Rhino and make this take longer to kill them for sure. So that is what they do here. So now I get to send the whole team in. They're at 11. Try to get that towards lethal. Ooh, I hate the infinite mana up. 2 cards in hand here. That is such a hit. Can absolutely like attempt lethal with Dryad Rampager, but just naturalisting the Courage is going to be way better if they have some instant speed removal to make me not get lethal here, because I'd have to send in the whole board tap out. I'm tapped out of mana, tapped out of creatures, and then I just don't end up killing them, and then they lifelink into me again. This is way safer against a targeted removal spell from our opponent. Beautiful. And it just immediately resolves. You love to see it. They're down to 7. Basilica Screecher also potentially life gain, but it is 7 life to 18. It's a chump blocker for Stormbreath Dragon as well. And I've got a bunch of 4/4s and the trample trick at the ready. We are currently taking 4 life, or sorry, taking 4 damage going to 3 life. Rampager trick is lethal. I think I put it on Experiment 1 because I can regenerate that if they respond with some kind of interaction. Does not matter, they do not have any kind of interaction, and we start things off 1-0 off the back of the fantastic Stormbreath Dragon and Experiment 1. Alright, pretty opposite hand this time around. Now we've got plenty of mana and not a ton to do with it. So we could easily flood out, whereas last hand could have easily gotten mana screwed, but we'll see how it goes. So far, so good. We've got an excellent way to top off our curve, but we certainly need to find a white source, or it's just going to be stuck on our hand here. Playing against a blue-red deck, there's the Archaeologist to hold us off for now, unless we find another creature. We did find another creature, but it is not going to evolve the Experiment 1. So let's District Guide into Boros Guildgate here, so I have double red and my white mana. There it goes, right up top. Arena knows what's up. Arena knows what we need. Got 5 mana next turn, so we are still 2 turns away from dropping this Dragon Lord. It should be pretty excellent in this matchup, though. Can it be countered? It can't be countered. Yeah, it should be really good in this matchup. It's going to be hard for red to find enough damage to kill a 7 toughness creature, and blue can't counter it. So, it's pretty lovely. Yeah, let's cash in 2 points of damage here, sure. One of these gets through. Cool. Sure, that works too. Now we get to pull some Morosity Experiment 1 if we want. I'm not sure we do, though. Probably just let that happen. Yeah, it's a pretty excellent position for the Rimrock Knight, actually. That it gets to eat one of my creatures and then still get the 3/1 body later. Okay, tap out of a couple mana. I guess not that it matters. If they had all their mana up, we still just slam Dramoka because it can't be countered. Okay. Now we're playing with fire right here. Oh, I'm so ready for Dragonstorm Tarkir. This is actually the Dragonstorm Tarkir pre-release. You just didn't know it. Or Tarkir Dragonstorm, it's the other way around. I wouldn't be surprised with every set having its own like special guests cards or bonus sheet now if they do bring back all the Dragon Lords. Even if they're not going to go into standard, just as like a bonus sheet you could get if you're really lucky in draft or sealed. With some alternate arts. Yeah, I mean it's in the name, Tarkir Dragonstorm. Dragon Style Twins. Opponents trying their best. But, time to just ruin everything. Just 5 damage wherever we want it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My lord of dragons, Atarka. Okay, fair game of Magic there, and we are now 2-0 heading into Game 3. Alright, here we are on the play for Game 3. We get to just be that streamlined aggro deck to put pressure on our opponents and top it off with an Atarka whenever we find that mana. Card is incredible. It is 5 mana to bestow a Boon Satyr, so we're probably just playing the 4-2 here. I suppose it depends on what follow-through our opponent has alongside this Raptor. Now I have Boon Satyr this turn and to bestow a Leaf Crown Dryad the turn after. That is pretty interesting. Target attacking or blocking creature on top of its owner's library. Sure. A little annoying. I don't think I Boon Satyr while they're tapped out. They've got a Cloudfin Raptor on board, so they're very incentivized to play any creature in their hand, so they're not incredibly likely to just hold up an Essence Scatter or something. Ooh, perfect. They play a Sky Knight and just don't even get value off of its evolve ability. That is A-okay with me. Okay. Now if they kill my Boon Satyr, then I have a 2-2 reach blocker to trade into Leav's Sky Knight. And they can't kill it on blocks, I just mean if they have some removal spell here. Compulsory would be probably the most annoying, because I'd have to spend the 2 mana to sack the Satyr to get the Leaf Crown Dryad. But still good. What is this Extricator going to sack? They're sacking a land. Right, bold move. Unless they're flooded right now, and then very nice draw to have the Extricator. Alright. It's not a fantastic race for me. Probably going to die before I get to Atarka if I don't play the defensive at this point. There's a lot that can go wrong if I do play the defensive, though, since Rimrock Knight doesn't do anything on blocks. I mean, if I attack in, I'm just going to die, right? Like, this is going to hit Extricator. They're going to take 0. I'm going to take 9 on the Crackback. Yeah, this is where we're at. This Leaf Crown Dryad is exceptional here if they don't have the removal. Because that's going to allow us to trade into Cloudfin Raptor and Sky Knight over time. If they don't have like a really good combat trick here. Okay, so that is a trade. Unless they have double combat trick. Yeah, so we trade there. I still have the Dryad on board, and then the Dryad trades into the Sky Knight. Just wonderful. You can misclick and put an opponent's card in their hand with Pulse of Marasa? That's how you know this card came out before Arena. Ooh, one land away from Magical Christmas Land. I do not think I'm supposed to Boon Satyr this Rimrock Knight, but I am definitely supposed to attack with it. Ooh, interesting. So I have to trade into the 3-2 and the 3-1 here if I want to stop all the damage this turn. Instead of bestowing Satyr to the Dryad and trading into Sky Knight that way. I guess now if they don't have a trick, then I theoretically have the option of bestowing onto the Dryad, eating the Sky Knight, and not losing a creature. If they didn't have a trick, though, I feel like they probably would have Artful Maneuvered the Sky Knight. Although, no. If they don't have the trick, the right play is to maneuver the ground creature, because then they know that I can just Boon Satyr Dryad, trade into Sky Knight anyway. So this way I'm in like kind of an awkward position on blocks against them just attacking with the single 5/4 on the ground. I have to lose my Dryad or my Satyr to that, or take the 5. I think with the Atarka in hand, it is worth buying all the time I can get. Because we're not necessarily like one turn away from Atarka. 100% of our deck is not lands. It's more like 30 to 40% right now. So it's on average going to take 2 or 3 turns maybe to cast this Atarka. There's Treasure Cruise, which is pretty huge for our opponent. There is sort of the land. Really hoping our opponent is just an aggressive, play everything to the board kind of Flyers deck so that they just don't have any mana up to potentially counter Atarka, because Atarka can be countered, and that would be rough. Gust of Wind the Satyr. That's so funny. It's actually pretty good here, because now I have to top deck a land to Atarka. But yeah, because Rimrock Knight has a relevant ability, Leaf Crown Dryad has a relevant ability, they might not want to let us recast those. Alright, beautiful. They're tapped out, and we win. 1, 2, 3, and then 2 to the face. Oh, it's only to creatures or planeswalkers. Okay, well. Do that, I guess. That way, Extricator has taken 1 damage, so they can't block here without losing Extricator. They are at 3 life against an 8/8 Flying Trample, and it's just too much. We are just riding our mythic rare Dragon Lords right into victory. We are just Daenerysing it up here. Here we are now for game 4. Excellent mana, and we've got an aggressive start. Let's roll with it. Hero, Satyr, and Rhino for our first 3 turns. There's a Leaf Crown Dryad as well. I'm just going to Satyr towards playing Rhino turn 3. And then this Leaf Crown Dryad can Heroic our hero or draw us a card off the Rhino. Boundary Lands Ranger. Hello there. Conclave Naturalists. Pretty nice. Draw. We're against Boros here, so they are likely to have some amount of random enchantment creatures for bestowing. If not that, most of White's removal in the set is also enchantment based, so Conclave Naturalists can stop a Chain to the Rocks or a Stasis Snare, anything like that. And there's the stasis snare, of course. That's what reminded me of its existence. Here we go. This is going to be a wonderful turn, and so far looking like a wonderful game. Unless I misclick and decline to blow up the stasis snare. That would be tragic. Land 4 from our opponent. There's a gear per gear crafter, so lots of little chumps over there. They do have more than 4 power on the board. Ooh, Rimrock Knight to go with the Rhino now. Let's just go crazy off the Rhino. Shall we? I could save Boulder Rush to put a bunch of counters on the hero. Which I guess I'll do. Yeah, I'll only Boulder Rush if I needed to, like, do it to kill another creature. Cool. They're down to 12. Pass turn. If they play something absolutely absurd that there's no way for me to attack through without finding some form of removal, I can always untap a mountain, draw another card off this Rhino during their end step. But it looks like that's not going to be the case. They scoop them up real quick, and we are 4-0 heading into Game 5. Here we are for Game 5. There are 4 red spells in this hand. Chain to the Rocks is red spell as well. If we don't hit a mountain, we're going to lose real fast. If we do, the hand becomes excellent. But without drawing exactly a red source, this is really awkward, and there's 33 cards left in the deck, 9 of which are red. So it'll take us on average like 3 draw steps. We're on the play, so we didn't even draw a card on the first turn. I cannot afford to take that gamble here. We go for the mulligan, find a pretty solid hand. 2 white spells with no white source means we ditch one of these. The big issue here is we don't start till turn 4, but it has a very powerful late game. I think I'm going to keep Chain to the Rocks over Selesnya Charm. Selesnya Charm's a little more flexible in terms of the kind of things it can do, but Chain to the Rocks is going to be better removal later in the game. Might be greedy to hold on to Boulder Rush here for the Rhino. Yeah, no, I'm just going to slam this out. Because we're going to have to just jam out Rhino turn 4 with like no mana untapped, and if our opponent just like untaps and then kills our Rhino, then it's pretty bad. That I just Rimrock Knight without even getting any value out of it later anyway, when I could have been just jamming damage, which I think we do here. Gear per Gear Crafter. That card is very good against Rimrock Knight. And now our Rimrock Knight looks horrible. I can't block with it anyway, so I'll just trade it off on attacks to buy us some time by clearing something off the board. Our opponent's on some aggressive Rakdos build, so we are going to need to cash that into trading in something. And that worked well. We got to kill a 1/1 flyer instead of a 1/1 on the ground. Unfortunately, our awkward draws here might be the death of us this game. Because this is a very aggressive start from opponent. We can get our 5th mana, but if I draw land, I still won't be at Atarka, so it's got to be better to just play the Rhino. And then next turn, play the Satyr. Because even if I top deck a land, it's just Satyr in the land, and I'm still not at Atarka mana, even if the Satyr wasn't summoning sick. Yeah, I think our best chance to win here is like top deck a Plains, top deck another untapped land. We have to top deck a Plains, Chain to the Rocks their best creature, play a Satyr. And then we have to untap, draw another basic, play a Tarka, and win. That is a really, really hard sequence, because it means they have to have no removal, no interaction. And that is not the draw we needed at all. It's a pretty strong card in theory, but it's not castable there. Will be castable next turn no matter what we draw. Must be how our first 4 opponents felt. This is really, really good for our opponent. The whole board gets first strike here. And it seems they likely have a trick in hand. If they have their own Rimrock Knight, when their whole board has first strike trample, then there's no block that's going to keep us in this game. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage if they just triple buff Crusader. There is no universe in which we're surviving from here, right? I go to 2 life. I do get to keep all 3 blockers. I'm at 2 life against 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers next turn. Play a 4th blocker, but that's only if I tap both the satyrs. Yeah, we never win there, but the only thing the satyr can do is trump anyway, so whatever. And it only trumps 2 damage because everybody has trample. I feel like it's got to be better to just hold it back. That is death, is it not? I guess it's barely not. If they have nothing in hand, we have 3 blockers. But I have to chump a Crowan Crusader with one of my 4/4s, which is so bad. I actually have to... Oh, it's not a chump anymore because we killed the Loyalist. Never mind. But I have to trade into Crusader and Fanatic here. We trade 4/4s into Fanatic and Crusader. I trade a 1/2 into the 2/1. I take 1. I go to 1. Okay, Warkite is just lethal. They just have the Warkite to bring back the Loyalist as well. Woo! My phone fell down. That is the most disgusting Rakdos aggro deck I think I've ever seen, and it was in sealed instead of draft. Incredibly synergistic sealed pool from our opponent. We have a really, really powerful sealed pool as well, but that was that looked like a streamlined draft deck right there. We are 4-1 heading into game number 6. Getting punished by the mana a little bit here again, where if we don't hit a red source, 3 of these cards do absolutely nothing. We don't even have an early game here, we just have a 1/2 and then we sit. Plays us another forced mulligan on us. Man, I mean, you all saw the mana base when we built the deck. Our mana base is so much better than this on average. Hopefully we're getting all our bad luck in a little clump here, and we go 7-2. Just get our 2 losses in a row. There we go. There we go. That's a 10 red source deck right there. Okay, we had to wait so long anyway. I might as well wait to see if I can Boulder Rush the Rhino at this point. Our opponent is 4 color. Let's see if the 4 color deck has the Essence Scatter. They do not, but they are pretty likely to have some kind of removal, playing like all their colors, and they do have the Obnoxis's Cruelty. Okay, they're 5 color. 5 color with a specific 2-mana, 2/2 mana ramp card. Okay, so they're probably green and blue at the core. I could shoot the follower immediately, but I like Stormbreath Dragon here. It dodges a chunk of potential removal with that protection from white. Well, we're on our way to a Dragonlord Atarka, luckily. This is land 6, so next turn I play untapped land Dragonlord Atarka, kill the Blood Baron with it. They can't attack into the Stormbreath Dragon if I just hold it up here. I need to not Wild Slash the turn I'm planning to block, because it shuts off protection from stopping damage. So I'm just going to Wild Slash the follower right now, so I don't ruin my life. Just keep up the pro-white blocker. They have to have removal for Stormbreath Dragon. If they do, they tap out to use that. I slam down a Tarka next turn. Even if they combat trick here on an attack, it doesn't matter. Stormbreath Dragon still survives and takes no damage, so they don't even gain life. Best they can do is make sure their Blood Baron stays around. Unless they have their own Wild Slash in their 5-color deck, which I guess is possible. They are playing some bold cards. A green-blue in the 5-color deck. Again, unless green-blue's at the core, that would make sense. Okay. Passing with all the mana up makes me feel like I have to just Monstrosity the dragon. It's going to shoot them in the face for like 1,000,000. And it makes sure that they don't just have the Essence Scatter here. Okay, Clear Shot does not work against the protection, so we're so fine. And we pass, right? If I hit 7, they hit for 4. I'm at 16. I mean, the more important is their life total. If I hit for 7 here, they go to 4 life. They gain 4. They go to 8 life. I Dragon Lord of Tarka. Hit for 7. They're not dead. Rimrock kills them, though, off the swing. Yeah, I can do this, and then I can play a Tarka and Boulder Rush and lethal them. I just kill any flying blockers with a Tarka, and then I Boulder Rush the Stormbreath Dragon and hit for 9 when they're at 8. Yeah, there's Whisperwood Elemental, which is an insanely good card, but does not matter against lethal flyers. And I don't even need to play the Dragon Lord, so let's get this over with. It's kind of funny, I can't lethal them with Selesnya Charm here because of protection from white. And yeah, that game shows us why they don't print protection anymore. It is very frustrating and kind of confusing. The Clear Shot did not get to do anything to our Stormbreath Dragon because the creature itself is dealing damage, not the Clear Shot, so it's still a white creature trying to deal damage to a creature with protection from white, so their Clear Shot just got completely nullified. They didn't even gain life because it didn't deal any damage, so the lifelink didn't trigger. So there's that. And protection also, I can't Selesnya Charm my own creature because it's got protection from white. It's a pretty funky ability. But yeah, that game worked out super, super well for us. Really, really lucky draws there to get out of the rough opener. And we are now 5-1, actually, as we head into game number 7. All right, no white source here, but certainly better than the hand we started with our last 2 games. So I think this has some pretty solid odds. I mean, any non-white card we draw into is a good draw here. We've got 4 mana in the hand. We're slamming down for 2 damage turn 2. I've got the cheap removal to clear a path for Experiment 1. Seems very, very reasonable. The Rimrock Knight's going to even evolve our Experiment 1 up to level 3, which will be beautiful. I kind of miss Level Up. Level Up was a fun mechanic back in Rise of the Eldrazi. I guess we've got a lot of cards that do similar things where you can pump a bunch of mana into them to make them bigger. But we haven't seen the entire mechanic come back. Alright, so I didn't cast Boulder Rush there, and that is because if I did, Experiment 1 would not evolve, because then Experiment 1 would have more power and more toughness than Rimrock Knight. I could have Boulder Rushed the Voyaging Satyr, but I was going to tap the Voyaging Satyr to play the other one, so I'm not attacking with that anyway. If I did that, I wouldn't have had the mana to do the Satyr. Ooh. That is nasty. Oh. So we stare at each other now, right? Until I hit a white source. Now we have to fly over the Hornet Nest. If I Wild Slash it, they have 2 1/1 Death Touchers. One of them trades into the +1/+1 counters on Experiment 1, and the other trades into Rimrock Knight. I guess because of Experiment 1's ability, it actually is pretty reasonable to slash the Hornet Nest, so I'll do that. Yeah, that is true. Experiment 1 plays pretty well against the Hornets. I probably should have just attacked both. It's not bad to train Rimrock into a 1/1 Flying Death Touch. Really hope our opponent's black deck is not on discard spells. If they play that thing that makes me discard something that costs more than 3 mana, then we are just crossing our fingers and hoping for the best from this point on. Because there goes our whole endgame plan. Although our opponent, again, also on a black deck, like I was saying, just means they can have some removal spell for Jamoka. Regardless. Ooh, all 3 white spells. 3 of a kind. Let's go. Well, at this rate, Experiment 1's not getting any bigger. I don't know. I'm not really under any pressure to trade into this. Like, the odds that I trade for this and then get any damage in on future turns are pretty low anyway. Like, they just keep playing stuff. I am so fine with that. Not that the Omnixus's Cruelty could kill a Jamoka, but they could stack it up with a neutral spell to do so, or they could just kill something better than a 3/1 that can't block. But that's the kind of play that comes when you are at a huge card advantage lead. So it's a fair play from them. I'm just happy to see it. That's one of those, like, I'm at a massive card advantage lead here. I just need to make sure that I'm living for some more turns. And they certainly are. Oh, man. Get a little taste of our own medicine on this one. Gonna get mythiced out of it. Three to the creature's controller. I can't shoot the Planeswalker. God, this card is so good in draft. Just draw a card every turn, destroy creatures. Love to put them to 8, but 6 Loyalty Ob Nixilis, able to blow up 2 creatures minimum if I don't chip at it. Yep. And then just Disciple the Jamoka. Pretty miserable game here. That'll be 2 for 2 on rough mana losses, sadly. And again, as I said earlier, I think the mana base in this deck is incredibly reasonable. Just hitting the short end of the stick in these games. Yeah, and that's going to be a lock. Now we just don't have any attacks. Obnoxus draws another card every turn. So, game's pretty much over, but it is an arena open, so I might as well play it out just in case something crazy happens. Maybe our opponent's computer explodes or something. And we get to be the opponent that has them time out and lose, instead of if I concede right now and then our next opponent gets the free win because their computer exploded. You never know. Maybe they'll accidentally plus an Obnixilis at 1 life. I guess the rougher part of variance this game was like less that I never hit the white source. Like, that is going to happen sometimes, but the fact that I hit all 3 of my white cards without the white source, that part is pretty wild. Too little too late, my friend. Maybe I should have actually Selesnya Charmed the 6/6, because then I can chain to the rocks the 4/4.
Let me show you how I work.
But I do like the idea of having the instant up during the opponent's turn for instant speed nonsense. Guess I might as well try this. They got the double trick, they kind of just got us, period. Cool. Well, that worked out fine. We still killed both. The post-combat Dregmangler, sadness on the stack.
Cruel is such an unrefined word.
Oh, if Atarka could shoot face, then we would have one lethal top deck right now, and that's Atarka. Maybe they'll damage themselves one more time, and Stormbreath Dragon could win it off the top. But probably not. 5, 6, 7, 8 go to 1 life. I guess if they have no more creatures, if they have land, land, land in this hand, then I can top deck Stormbreath Dragon and kill them. Crack back for 5 exactly. Alright. That's our best chance. If they have basically any combat trick or instant speed removal, then we would die here basically no matter how we blocked, because then they could have just blown one of these up before combat. Or like if I blocked a Dregmangler, just trample over. I've got no cards in hand, so if they have lethal in hand, then they know they can just do it. Voyaging Satyr, so Stormbreath Dragon no longer lethal top deck. And it's Gruul Guildgate anyway. 5 and 2 it is. Just some pretty tragic early game draws there in a game where we just needed some excellent draws to win, because we had to have some way to kill that Omnixless to have any chance there, and that was definitely not going to be possible with 3 completely dead draws in hand. So 5 and 2 it is as we head into game number 8. All right, here we are on the play with some really excellent mana this time around. Quite happy with that. We have all 3 colors in District Guide hitting that second green for the Boon Satyr. Probably just run out the Rampager here and then throw a Boon Satyr on it. That'll be quite a scary creature. Alright, opponent is just setting up mana over there. I think I just want an untapped land at this point. I have double red, I have double green, I've got my 1 white source. If I get my untapped plains, then I could cast Chain to the Rocks and Selesnya Charm in the same turn, if that ends up being relevant. Which it could be. And then every draw left in the deck is a green or a red source, towards double spelling the other stuff. I think that makes sense to me. What does our opponent have for their turn 3? I don't know. I'm not sure if they know either. They might be doing something else. We got plains, district guide. All right, sure. I don't think I'm going to attack into that because our turn 5 is going to be bestowing a Boon Satyr. So I have an opportunity to potentially have Boon Satyr eat an opposing creature without even like spending a card to do so, since it is a permanent buff. Yep, Voyaging Satyr. Yeah, so if I offer the District Guide for District Guide trade here, and then they accept it, we make it incredibly in our favor. Perfect. Obviously, Boon Satyr not being on the Trampler is like a little rough, but it's definitely worth the card advantage here. And I've still got an insane board. Now I have 2 must-be-dealt-with threats. 2 must-be-killed threats. Our opponent is on 5 color. So they're probably running every removal spell in the sealed pool. There's Dragon Lord Dramoka. You can sit on the rocks. Welcome to your new home. $10 damage, put them to 6. Keeping Selesnya Charm for potential lethal combat trick. Trampling up a District Guide will be massive. Sneaks a ton of damage through. They got a Chromanticore in there. Get a gigantic flying lifelink first strike thingamabob. Selesnya Charm will beat it, even if they bestow it. Actually, if they bestow it, it'll be a little more awkward. Okay, it's just the giant elf. Sure. Better to Selesnya Charm. If I Selesnya Charm right now, then they definitely live. They jump to 6/4 and take 5, go to 1. If I hold on the Selesnya Charm, I might be able to combat trick kill them, but then if they use Satyr to untap and have like a 2-mana removal spell, they could kind of blow me out. I'm just going to do this safer Selesnya Charm. The only way they stop this is with a hexproof trick. And if they don't have the instant speed 2-mana removal spell like Ultimate Price, wow, what a draw. Then I was going to say that they still have to chump with Satyr and go to 1 life and have no board left, so we're still very likely to win, but get super, super lucky there with that Storm Breath off the top to just still have lethal. And we are 6-2 now, which means that this next game is the final battle no matter what. But this is an arena open, so there's a lot on the line here. We don't even have our entry fee back yet because we didn't get a full 7-win run. So really got to fight for this and see if we can't get the trophy run on the first run. That would be pretty incredible. But if not, we get to play some more Pioneer Masters Sealed, which has actually been kind of fun here. But I think that's just because this sealed pool is really, really cool. So fingers crossed here. One last look at the deck as we hop into the final battle. All right, here we are for the last game of Magic with some great mana again. This hero might have been a bad addition to this deck. We probably should have just put some random white removal spell in over that. Because it's consistently just been like, all right, here's my 1 mana 1/1. But it is what it is. Okay, get the red source out first. Getting a tap land out to make sure I play Satyr turn 2 instead of playing Hero turn 1. Opponent starts with Oath of Nista over there. Fingers really crossed they don't have any Planeswalkers. That would be a devastating ending to this run. There's Hero of Iroas. Excellent heroic card. So now we get to play the Voyaging Satyr. We're going to Draconic Roar that hero for sure. So there's Selesnya. Fleece Main Lion. All right, I'll have to Draconic Roar that because that's also really good. There we go. We have a Boulder Rush to go with our hero. That is certainly nice. So Roar the Fleece Main Lion before they can make it better. I am not going to reveal Dragon Lord Atarka. Certainly could, but I'm a little worried they'd have some kind of spell where it matters that they know that we have that. Can make hero a 5/5 now. Off of Boulder Rush, which feels great. There's Ardenvale Tactician. Oh, but we've got Gnarlback Rhino. Okay, if they block, I'll make hero 5/5. If they don't block, I'll play Gnarlback Rhino. That seems like a fair choice. And now I have the option of cycling the Boulder Rush to draw a card towards hitting 7 mana for Dragon Lord Atarka. Stasis Snare the Rhino. That was my last chance to choose if I want to draw a card instead. I'm at 5 out of 7 mana for Atarka. I don't think so. Having a 5/5 on board when they've killed my only other threat is kind of a big deal. Naturally draw a land anyway. Now I get a 6/6 hero. Let's go ahead and do this outside of combat, I guess. So if they have some, like, deal damage to an attacking creature or something I don't know about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I don't get blown out that way. Alright, now they really need to spend removal on the hero, which is less removal for them to have for Dragon Lord. District Guide. See if that grabs a splash, or if they're a pure Selesnya deck here. This might be the first pure 2-color deck we saw. No, there's a blue-red deck. Ooh, basic land would be beautiful. Just rip their board apart. No basic yet, but I've still got pressure. How do they kill hero? They can block with everybody and only kill 2 of their creatures on board. So this may actually just be a jam some creatures out and pass kind of turn. Yeah, so hero, I can kill Tactician and Harpooner and leave them with a single 2/2. But I lose my 6/6. I think we pass. Like, our worst case scenario here is that they find a removal spell that's good enough to kill our 6/6, and if they do that, then they no longer have that removal spell for our upcoming Dragon Lord Atarka. And our upcoming Dragon Lord Atarka is going to kill them in like a single swing. I mean, an 8/8 flying trample. They're at 11. I just need to find 3 more damage elsewhere, which should be pretty easy when it's going to wipe out a majority of their blockers when it enters. There's Hero of Iroas. Let's put the Fear of God in them. Have a second Boulder Rush in response. One card left in their hand now. And they pass turn. Hello, Stormbreath Dragon! Sure is not a Dragon Lord, but it's a close approximation. There's the nice from opponent. All they can do is chump with Crawl Harpooner or take 4. Thanks to that protection from white. I should have attacked with Rimrock Knight. I'm so dumb. All the Rimrock Knight trades are good on board, obviously. I got a little too excited about Stormbreath Dragon. And forgot about the can't block part. Selesnya Charm the hero. Alright, so no Selesnya Charm for Dragon Lord anymore. But my blocks are not good here. They have to hold Crawl Harpooner off, though, to survive. No attacks at all, like that. Show me a counter spell, or I believe this is dead on board. GG from opponent. Go for this. I could evolve or Monstrosity the Stormbreath, but that doesn't kill their blocker. So I'm going to kill their blockers here. Just kill both the flying blockers, right? But yeah, I could have made Stormbreath a 7/7 and dealt 1 damage to them, but then they just like chump block it and go from there. Opponent chooses death there. Again, they could have traded into Rimrock Knight, still been at 3, had another draw step, but this was an insane game for us. The Stormbreath Dragon plus Dragon Lord Atarka. Yeah, I like this deck a lot. Probably could have been built a little bit better, as I was saying earlier. And maybe even some more white focused, like full 3-color build could have technically been better. I don't know. I don't think so, but I never looked at it, so it's possible. But I think this was a much more enjoyable build. The Gruul heroic kind of aggro stuff. I feel like the pressure that it gets to put on early is excellent, and then it still has access to just all the strongest cards in the sealed pool with the white splash. The mana is numerically pretty consistent. We did lose 2 games, though, due to mana issues, but I think those were, especially the second mana loss, was kind of a statistical anomaly. We hit all 3 white spells before a single of the 5 different ways to get white mana: Plains, Guildgate, Gateway Plaza, District Guide. So yeah, hitting all 3 of these before a single one of these 5, I think, like, that's just some bad luck. It's gonna happen. The first mana loss, I think, was more reasonable. I think we only had like 1 or 2 white spells. Um, that really cost us. But yeah, I mean, that was really the only issue that we were having was mana stuff, which is always going to happen if you're splashing a third color at all. It'll happen now and then. Everything else about the deck was pretty great. And Hero of Lena Tower, actually, I was talking some crap on this in that last game, and it ended up being really, really solid there. Turned into a 6/6 threat that forced removal from our opponent and got quite a bit of damage in early. So it kind of did the thing there. That was like our only other card that I really recognize here that I was like, yeah, that really was not working out too well for us. It wasn't doing much for us, but it did stuff in that game. I guess Slide Runner didn't really do anything. We only drew it 1 time, and it was in that last game where everybody else was winning the game anyway. But basically, everything else got to shine and really did its job. Conclave Naturalists was consistently great. Blew up a couple enchantments here: Stormbreath Dragon, Dragon Lord Atarka, and Dragon Lord Jamoka. Obviously, all 3 of these were the big MVPs of the deck. You open up 3 incredible mythic rare dragons, you play 3 incredible mythic dragons, and get a lot of wins off of them. So that's it. That is a trophy run. The first attempt of the Pioneer Masters Arena Open Day 1 feels pretty good. That means we get to hop right into the drafts tomorrow for the Arena Open Day 2. And I say drafts plural, but that is a one shot and you're out kind of event. Very, very high risk, high reward. It is best of 3 draft of Pioneer Masters with the Devotion bonus sheet. And we have to win 3 rounds out of 4 to make it to draft number 2. If we do not accomplish that, we are out after 1 draft. There is no retries on day 2. If we do make it to draft number 2, then that is the super, super sweet one where these like 3 and 4 win prizes are actually big cash money instead of just access to another draft. But no matter what, we are up in value. We are up in gems. We get an extra 500 gems even if I lose 0 rounds tomorrow. But hopefully we can do a little better than that. I am super pumped to draft the format. The Devotion bonus sheet has been the coolest bonus sheet by far. And I'm excited to see how we do in a very competitive event of this draft format. See if we can't get some more lucky pulls, some more lucky draws, and take it as far as we can. But as for now, that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you could always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow for some more Magic Arena.